Okay, and we are back with the Assassins detachment. Well, that's what it sounds like, but this is the new Imperial Agents detachment, and it's got some interesting stuff in it. So this is going to be called the Veiled Blade Elimination Force, and this thing is all about your freaking assassins, your Calexis, your Calidus, your Vindicare, and your Eversor. Now, is this attachment really good? No. It's just not. I'll just tell you right off the bat, it's not. But it's very similar to the entire Imperial Agents Codex, just in general. It's not like a good competitive thing, but it does have some exceptionally cool stuff in it. For those of you who really like to abuse your assassins, guys, this is going to be a blast to play. I seriously doubt we're ever going to see this as a super high level of competition. But honestly, that's just not what Imperial Agents is for anyway. Imperial Agents is more like a love letter to the fans to give something that is fun and exciting to play and can win games. I'm not saying it can't win games, mind you. And this does actually present some unique challenges, but it doesn't solve the problems that the Imperial Agents Codex really just has. So let's talk about it. We have the Extremis Sanction, which is going to be the detachment rule. So for the Officio Assassinorum, so your assassins, you can use the Overkill, Soulless Horror, and Shield Breaker abilities twice per battle instead of once per battle. So this would be the thing that make the individual assassins unique. So your ability to add movement to the Eversor, your ability to add I think, or I believe it's the, oh yeah, the ability to cause the battle shock for the Calexis, and the ability to ignore saves with the Vindicare Assassin. Which on that Vindicare Assassin, that's actually a big damn deal. I don't really think it's a big deal on the Eversor, seeing as once he uses the move, I mean, he's done, like, he's gonna die anyway, so it's like, I don't really think it's that big a deal. But for the Vindicare, that's actually a huge deal. It makes him very threatening to a large portion of your opponent's army. Then, in addition to this, when mustering your army, each of the assassin units from your army has the relevant extremis ability shown on the right. So basically, these are enhancements that you're forced to take, and they're enhancements, in quotation marks, specifically for your assassins. You don't have a choice if you're taking this detachment. They have to have this enhancement ability, which does make them a lot more expensive. And in some scenarios, I would argue it makes them worse. Some scenarios, I would argue, makes them a lot better. So the first one of those abilities is going to be the Decoy Targets for the Calidus. It does make the Calidus cost 140 points instead of, well, it's plus 40 points. I can't forget the Calidus is a little cheaper in IA than it is as an ally. So it's going to make it cost 40 points more. Now, this is actually a pretty cool ability. I got to be honest with you. So twice per battle in your movement phase, you can select one other friendly infantry model that is on the battlefield and not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. The selected model is destroyed, ignoring any rules that are triggered when a model is destroyed. And this model is removed from the battlefield and set up again as close as possible to where the destroyed model was and not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. This ability cannot be used more than once in the same battle round. This is an amazing ability. Let me kind of explain why it's amazing, because it's kind of wordy, so it can be kind of hard to figure out. Have you ever had the Calidus and been like, oh, I really want to move this unit, but my opponent has 1 CP, and because they have the Overwatch, they can fire Overwatch, I just can't move it. Too bad I can't teleport my Calidus there until the end of the movement phase. Well, no longer is that a problem. Now you can just do it immediately. Your Calidus will be within 12 inches of the enemy unit. Now it's going to cost them 2 CP to Overwatch, and then you're able to move, because this is done in the movement phase, not at the end of the movement phase, not even at the beginning of the movement phase. So you can just move her wherever you want during the freaking movement phase, and that is powerful. It's extremely strong. It allows you to get, and you can get her like an inch away from an enemy unit, by the way, with this. Because it doesn't say that the unit that you're teleporting to has to be outside of engagement range. It says the model you're teleporting to has to be outside of engagement range of the enemy. So this is a very, very, very powerful ability that makes the Calidus exceptionally better. It allows you to use her abilities much more targeted, and it can just get her in positions where you really need her. So very, very solid. Then the next Extremis ability, which has to go on the Calexis Assassin, which I think makes the Calexis much worse, to be honest with you. It increases his cost, or her cost, I forget if it's he or she, by 40 points. And then suddenly, when you do that, whenever the Calexis uses grenades, you get Immortal on a roll of a 3+ instead of a 4+. I think this sucks for 40 points, and it's not even 40 points that you can take. It's 40 points that you have to take. I think it makes the Calexis Assassin just straight up worse, and I think that's a problem. All right, then we have the Intraneural Biotech for plus 35 points for the Eversor Assassin. All right. Once per battle round, which is kind of cool, you can target this model with the Heroic Intervention or the Counter Offensive Stratagem for 0 CP, and can do so even if you have already used that stratagem on a different unit this phase. I don't know, like, it's not good, but it's not bad, right? Like, it'd be cool to be able to just do a free interrupt with him, but your opponent can realistically just, I don't know, fight your adversary first. So, yeah. I mean, too bad you can't use it with both, right? Like, if you could heroic and do the counteroffensive both for 0 CP, I could see some use in that, because then you could really screw up your opponent's charge phase activation mindset. But as is, it's like, it's cute. I think the adversary assassin's already too expensive. Now, when you're putting extra 35 points on him, no, I don't want to take that. And then you have the micro melter rounds, which is objectively amazing. So for the Vindicare Assassin, this model's Exodus rifle has anti-monster vehicle 4-up abilities, which means that you can just proc dev wounds much more easily on these models, which is very, very powerful and very, very good. So I think the micro melter rounds rocks, and the Vindicare Assassin loves. All right. Let's talk about some of these stratagems. These stratagems are pretty cool. They're pretty neat. They give you some interesting things to do. Unfortunately, they're just stuck with the Imperial Agents data sheets. But the reality is that the Imperial Agents Codex is never really meant to be super competitive. This is just GW giving you a really fun way to run them. And honestly, this is super fun, and it is super cool. So let's talk about some of these stratagems. Number one, we have the Prime Target, which is going to be in your shooting or the fight phase. You get to target one agent of the Imperium unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight. Now, until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets a character unit, you get to re-roll wound rolls of 1. If you are making this attack by an assassin model and it's targeting the enemy warlord, you get to re-roll the wounds instead. This can actually be very, very useful, especially when you start talking about some of the units that you could actually, I don't know, proc it on. Now, I might not really like the Klexus Assassin, but in melee, he's got devastating wounds, which is pretty good. You can use this to really just fish for devastating wounds against the enemy warlords. So there's times where this can actually really come into play. It's just not something that I feel like is super impressive on most of the data sheets that your opponent has available to them in the Imperial Agents Codex. All right, let's talk about the next one, which is going to be the Orbital Oversight stratagem. Your opponent's shooting phase just after they have selected their targets. One agent of the Imperium infantry unit from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacks. Until the end of the phase, your unit can only be selected as the target of a ranged attack if the model is within 18. So it's like mini lone op. But if your model already has lone op, suddenly they can't shoot you unless they're within 6 inches. This is actually pretty darn cool. Most of the time, this just makes it so that your assassins can't be shot, which is pretty darn powerful. So I think this is a very good stratagem, and it's gonna be useful. Then we have the Hyperstims for 2 CP, which kind of blows me away that this is 2 CP, but it is what it is. Your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. One agent of the Imperium character unit from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Now, this is character unit, so any unit that you have that is led by a character, so it can be used on your rogue trader entourages, it can be used on a variety of things. Now, until the end of the phase, add 1 to the toughness characteristic of models in your unit. That's a pretty unique stratagem. I think that's kind of cool. +1 to toughness. However, +1 toughness for 2 CP seems pretty terrible. But in addition, if it is the Eversor Assassin, they get +1 toughness, so they go to T5, and they'll get a Feel No Pain 4-up. Dude, that is so niche. I cannot believe that this is a 2 CP stratagem. Like, for 1 CP, this seems pretty bad, to be honest with you. 2 CP? Ugh. GW, I'm not sure. Okay. Then we have Blind Grenades. Now, this one's actually really good. Your opponent's charge phase just after an enemy unit has declared a charge. One agent of the Imperium Grenades or the Vindicare Assassin unit from your army that has been selected as one of the targets of that charge and is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. Until the end of the phase, subtract 1 from charge rolls for the enemy unit. But if it's a Vindicare Assassin, you get to subtract 2 from charge rolls. Good, solid stratagem. We like it. Especially with the fact that the Vindicare is going to be infiltrating a lot of times. A lot of times early game, your opponent's just going to send a unit out to go kill him. Be like, screw it. I'm just need to get rid of this Vindicare now since he infiltrated in this annoying spot. This can actually make those charges fail. Those turn 1 charges. It can make them very, very challenging for your opponent. And I think this is a good stratagem. I like it. Then we look at the Will Sapping Salvo, which is in your shooting phase. Target 1 agents of the Imperium Infantry unit. Effects. Until the end of this phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have sustained hits 1. I can think of a couple units that like this, and this applies to any agents of the Imperium Infantry, which is pretty cool, meaning like your Death Watch, for example. In addition, If it is a Calexis Assassin unit, until the end of the phase, change the damage characteristic of ranged weapons to 3. Now, this is kind of interesting. So, if we look at the Calexis Assassin's abilities, his Animus Speculum, which is going to be 3 shots, strength 2, hits on 2s, strength 5, AP 2, damage D3. It is anti-psych or 2-up, assault, precision, psychic assassin. So if you're attacking a psychic unit, then suddenly it's 6 sacks. Basically, you change the damage characteristic of D3 to 3. Honestly, that's pretty good. That is not a bad ability. I think this is an ability that is worth 1 CP. Sustained hits on demand, or sustained hits and change your damage of 3 for this particular model. That's kind of cool. So the Calexis Assassin kind of seems like he really likes this detachment. Especially since you can stack his dev wounds with reroll wound rolls, things like that. But I think the fact that you have to pay an extra 35 points for this Calexis really kind of blows. And then lastly, we go on to the Ensnaring Trap. When end of your opponent's charge phase, target 1 Agents of the Imperium infantry unit from your army that is within 6 inches of 1 or more enemy units and would be eligible to declare a charge against 1 or more of those enemy units. So this is actually going to be very similar to the Dark Angels detachment that we saw. Basically, you get to declare a charge in your opponent's charge phase. It's awesome. It's a very, very good stratagem. It's really solid. In addition, if it's the Calexis Assassin you're using this on, then you get to add 1 to the wound roll. Honestly, this stratagem rocks. So the reality is that this entire detachment, in my opinion, in my honestly not that humble opinion, it's just not a competitive detachment. But the reality is neither is Agents of the Imperium in general. Agents of the Imperium is not meant to be a competitive detachment. It's meant to be kind of a love letter to the fans. And this detachment is flavorful as crap. And I gotta be honest with you. You probably could do some damage with it. I'm personally not gonna cook with this. I'm just not interested in it, and it just doesn't really scratch the itch for me. But if there's some enterprising Chad out there who really likes the Agents of the Imperium, I would like to see what you could do with this. I don't think this is going to really change the meta anywhere, but it is going to allow for some really interesting and fun games for some of you guys out there. So with that, I'm glad for you, but I wish GW would have treated Agents of the Imperium a little more seriously. Just not even with this detachment, just with the Codex in general. With that, I am going to take off. I appreciate all of you. This has been double Sunday videos, and happy crumping out. Have a great day. Bye.